let's begin our journey into the world of Web3 with our first session. Our first session is a Web3 overview panel, and we're going to get an overview of the landscape of Web3. And to do that, I'd like to invite to the stage, first of all, I'll list off their names and read their titles, and then we'll have them all come at the same time. So the gentleman that I just met, Mr. Ferdinand Kobelt, CEO of Metaverse Advisory and representative of the Swiss Federal Department of Defense, Michail Angelov, CEO of Rome Network, and Felix Leupold, CTO at Swap. And moderating this panel discussion this morning will be the one and only George Tang, co-founder of Mixx Reality, and also a participant in the 2022 90-Day Fin program, of which I also participated. So, very happy to have you here this morning, George, to join us. Please, gentlemen, if you would please join us on the stage. Thank you.
So very excited to get started. Getting started right now. I am George Tang, and as I have already been introduced, part of the Helsinki ecosystem, very, very much interested in the ongoing discussion and community building here for the Web3 community. So without further ado, I'm going to allow each one of the panelists to introduce themselves. So my first question for all of you, starting from you, is to give us your name, who are you with, and most importantly, why you are interested in Web3 and that you are working on Web3 and you're here talking about Web3.
All right. All right. Yeah. Thank you, George, for the introduction. My name is Michail, and I hope you remember the Michelangelo aspect of my name. And as I was raising my hand, we are building a community that would help people get more fair reward for their contribution to the act of creating better mobile networks. So that's what we're building here. We're building a community and actually using the Web3 technology as an enabler to make our use case. So my thesis here will be that Web3 has an actual usage of the technology to create real life use cases or real use cases, and this is what I will be happy to share my experience and also to challenge the colleagues how to actually make it a reality.
Wonderful. Would you please introduce yourself? Why? And why, who are you and who are you with, and why is Web3 interesting to you, and why are you here today talking about Web3?
Absolutely, thank you very much, George. My name is Ferdinand, and I work on one hand for my own company. It's called Metaverse Advisory. There I teach and educate board members and C-level staff about the new technology, about Metaverse, Web3, blockchain technology, and so on. And on the other hand, I work also for the Swiss Federal Department of Defense. I report directly to the Federal Counselor. I work there as an advisor for topics like digitization, innovation, and cybersecurity. There I work part-time, 60%, and the other 100% are on my own company. And I'm also a board member in IBO, International Baccalaureate Organization. That's an organization who builds education programs worldwide. They have 5,600 universities and schools on the contract, and 2 million students worldwide. And also, IBO wants to move a step forward in the area of Metaverse and digitization, and that's why I'm on that level, on the board level, to define new strategies for education. And why I'm here? That's a good question. Helsinki is so a beautiful place. I had the chance yesterday to visit a little bit the city. I did also a sightseeing tour by boat. It's really a very, very nice city. And on the other hand, I'm since a young boy, I'm fascinated about science fiction, innovation, new things, the whole life. And now we have Web3, we have Metaverse, also new stuff, which inspires me very much. And I want to help to use these new technologies to build up a better world. And I'm here to exchange ideas and to talk about new topics, opportunities, and probably also some challenges in this area. Thank you very much, George.
Wonderful. And same questions.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Felix. I'm the technical co-founder of CowSwap. We are a Ethereum native DeFi protocol that's trying to address some of the problems or difficulties for people that are doing swaps on chain today. I'll have the opportunity to speak a little bit more in depth of what we do at CowSwap and how we protect users from some of the dangers of the dark forest later today in my talk. I'm in Web3 because I believe in this innovation. I think that systems that are not gated and are open, have little barrier to entry, open for the entire community to build and experiment with, will in the long term outcomes be more gated and traditional systems. So I really believe that Web3 can be what the internet was to information technology, but for transacting and value. And I came here today because I was curious about the Finnish Web3 builder community. I'm curious to meet you, and I've heard great things about Finland and the startup spirit and the technology sector. So, yeah, mainly curiosity, probably.
Wonderful. And it's wonderful to have business, policy, government, as well as technology represented, because I believe all of these are necessary components to make Web3 work. But of course, the first question for the panelists, as this is the first panel session, is there has been a lot of talk about the label of Web3, and what Web3 represents. And we have had some time to think about and talk about Web3. Today, in 2023, at this moment, from your perspective, what is Web3? We'll start with one of you who would like to give it your best try for
I can probably start.
All right.
I'm not so deep in Web3 alone. I'm more focused on Metaverse. But with Web3, it's always about decentralization. That's one main topic, I think. The other one is blockchain technology, interoperability, and we have also a lot of startups and projects in Switzerland about tokenization. And so these are all topics around Web3. And I think also Web3 is at the beginning of the evolution. We are not at the end. And we have really to learn day by day what's coming up new, what's good, where we have to change something. And it's not for me a topic where we have to fight and to find the right definition now, because it will evolve. It's more important to discuss what are the values we can generate through Web3 technology. That's my statement to start.
And then one of you would like to take a stab at this very controversial question?
I almost felt like I gave my high-level definition already in the first question about how it can be the internet of value and how it can be a gateway for permissionless innovation. Maybe one of kind of the analogies that I usually that I think about when I think about Web3 is what YouTube kind of did to video content creation, or what the internet did to availability of information that was gated and that was hard to assess in the past. Specifically, if you wanted to create video content and make it available to a worldwide audience, you had to probably go through your local television station, work your way up years over years until you were able to find an audience that was actually large enough to your liking. You had gatekeepers that you had to convince that your content was worthwhile. Whereas since the rise of YouTube, you can now anyone in their basement can just create content and leave it up to the general public to decide if this is good or watch-worthy or not watch-worthy. So instead of having a single aggregate kind of gatekeeper to what is good or what is bad, you open this up for the community to decide and have a less aggregated view on, in Web3 specifically, values. And so, yeah, permissionless innovation, access to kind of new protocols, new primitives, to me is what Web3 is about, and why it will, in my point of view, also win in the long run is because the speed at which we innovate will just be much faster than other technologies.
Understood. Your perspective.
All right, so from a very pragmatic point of view, actually agree with what the other panelists have just shared. Maybe just to give it all in the perspective of a real-life example, I was trying to explain to a friend of mine who is a professor at the University of Economic History what I do, right? I said, okay, what do you do? Okay, I say I do this and that. Web3 buzzword. He said, okay, what is Web3 for you? And I was saying, okay, how can I get back to mindset of people that don't know about this permissionless and technology and blockchain? So I was telling the story about, okay, remember what was Web 1, right? Web 1 was a buzzword and all of a sudden it became a business. How did it become business? Guys like Amazon create a portal, you go there, you buy stuff, and you get some services or products. I mean, Amazon was the biggest example of the Web 1 success, right? Then Web 2 came, and then the dynamics changed. So all of a sudden, it was not that you buy some service from somebody on a portal, like replacing brick and mortar shop, but your actions, or even you, are the monetization part. So they came to Facebooks, and you get a free service, or we get the Google that we all use, and you get a free service, but they mine you. You're worth like 3.6 euro per year. And then the Web3 came, so all of a sudden now we are aware that we have some value in this world. Okay, maybe less philosophical, that our actions or our devices or our interaction with the real world asset, they have some value to somebody. And instead of us just being mined, I mean, that's another term from the cryptocurrency world, instead of us being mined, we can actually be part of this value creation, and we should have a fair reward or fair exchange of the value between the parties. And that's actually what attracted me to the Web3 world. I mean, I come from a very classical space of telecommunications, and which was actually very steady and highly developed. And for me, the story that you can contribute to create something that you use, and you get fairly rewarded for that, and now we have the technology to make it happen, to happen in real time, to be actually fair value, to happen around the world, to actually decrease the boundaries, to actually no need to trust the other parties is what the Web3 technology is all about. So I like still to focus on the Web3 technology as an opportunity to create real value, rather than just speculative aspects of why a picture with a URL link should be worth millions or hundreds of millions of euros. So I still believe in the value of the Web3, and I think that's an exciting space to be around here.
And love the functional perspective, and things came up here that are generally a little bit surprising around values and exchange values. And this is part of the reason why I kind of like this is one of the because you get different perspectives than, for example, just a technological one or just a policy one. So very, very wonderful. But now, since we are talking about values, and talking about how technologies can go from trending upwards and to obscurity, very recently we've had a huge interest in the explosion of discussing AI as its applicability in our lives. But there was a time in which AI was kind of nobody really understood what AI is, nobody really understood its possibilities. In your opinions, what is the technology that is going to do the same thing that ChatGPT did for AI? To take it from something that's theoretical to something that is much more in the public's eye and really stimulating the discussion about the possibilities of Web3 and what it can do for us in a very public network.
Okay, this was a very long question. Let me see if I understood. You're asking what the AI can do for the Web3, or how the AI can become a mainstream technology?
What is a similar technology in your opinion that's similar to what the ChatGPT did for AI, which is very misunderstood or not talked about or not understood subject?
That's a good one. So yeah, I mean, I would say that if we knew this in this room, I think we would be the next unicorn here in the space. But okay, but let me give you a try. So I would say that anything that has now friction to be mass adoption should be this kind of technology. I mean, AI was there before ChatGPT, right? To be very open, I think what ChatGPT was to publish it to the consumers, and of course, when you have only 200 million users in a couple of months, then of course it catches the eye of the business. Whatever we get into the Web3 space, it is going to be mass adopted, which means we have the regulation, we have the technology background, we have the use case. I mean, this would be great. I mean, simple stuff is that how can you use it on our devices that we use every day, maybe on the phone, and it's actually tightly integrated into our work or daily life. I mean, that could be a good one. I would say usability. I think we discussed last night at the speaker meeting that usability is the biggest impediment for Web3. I mean, few people, I mean, outside the Web3 circle, know how to use a Web3 wallet, or they bother to actually create a Web3 wallet. So I think that's a big story. So how can we get from backup security to the adoption that you can use it instead of your login credentials. So everybody knows username and password, very few people know Web3 wallet. So I would bet on that, usability as an actual trend. That could be improved.
If you allow, let me, I mean, nobody knows, I agree with you that if we do this in the room, we would be building the next unique one right now. But let me give two suggestions of what could be some of the technology and enable a catalyst for new technologies such as ChatGPT was for AI. I think on the retail side, something like self-custodial bank accounts, like end users being able to store their personal funds, their personal money directly on-chain in a wallet that, of course, is much more useful. I agree with you, not with a single key that once you lose it, your entire network is gone. But in an abstracted account, held self-custodial so that you can choose what you want to invest your funds in. If you want to hold it in euros, dollars, stocks, cryptocurrency, that's up to you. Nobody can tell you what to do with your funds. Having the railway or the rails of the existing banking system incorporated into our everyday lives through this type of wallet. So having a credit card where you can pay directly using the funds that you have on your wallet, having a bank IBAN or some other bank account number that makes it a gateway into the traditional financial system, but that you as a person could choose, do I want to store my value with a bank that I trust, or do I want to store my funds self-custodial? I think this product doesn't exist now, but I think with the young generation growing up with kind of maybe more skepticism also towards centralized financial institutions and more curiosity and technological knowledge, that could be a catalyst and an interesting technology to follow. Maybe more on the institutional side, one use case I see for blockchain technology and in general credible neutral systems such as Ethereum is to build or interact in ways that currently require trust or proprietary infrastructure on a level where that trust may not be given. One example here could be foreign exchange trading. Governments are around the world, I guess, maybe in a phase of where they're trusting each other less and less. We've seen last year the SWIFT railways becoming somewhat unusable for a large chunk of people in the world, and so under the assumption that governments will still try to want, or people that trade foreign exchange will still want to exchange with one another, having a truly credible neutral settlement layer for that, like Ethereum, could be a catalyst for maybe not mass retail adoption, but definitely a huge adoption and value creation in that sector.
Yeah, from a government perspective, from a policy perspective, what do you see as that thing that is going to really make Web3 a central topic?
Yes, yeah, that's a good question. From this perspective, I think what have we done in Switzerland so far? In Switzerland, we have a law for use of new technology like blockchain and cryptos and so on since 2021. We have about 1,000 firms working on new technology topics in Switzerland due to this law, and have more than 50 startups, Web3 startups working on this topic. And if I think, what are they doing? What is the core competency of this company? It's about decentralized finance at the moment. That's one big thing. The other big thing is tokenization, and the other big thing is working on blockchain, as my speaker said before. And on the other hand, for me also one very, it's not on a government side, but on the personal side, it's usability. To have a technology for a wallet that I wanted to use to trade or to have it as my own identity in the Web3 area, we need to improve the usability of this technology. I myself also an engineer, I can handle these wallets and all these things we have, but for a normal user it's extremely difficult. So I believe also if we can go a step further in the usability, we will also have a huge potential for new applications and new use cases in this area.
Very interesting. I hear a lot of talk about values and applications and usability, things that we can talk about. So my question for all of you is, what industries here in London, a lot of circular economy, a lot of sustainability, talk, what other industries would you think would benefit from a more wide adoption of Web3 concepts as we move on into the future of the web? Anybody would like to make
You just want, is it only for Finland or you think in general?
just the greater conversations about changing values?
I think now the interesting discussion is about blockchain versus Web3, right? Because a lot of industry have tried to put things on the blockchain, and now of course the Web3 comes into the bigger picture. So I think the story of having the traceability and be able to trace the origin and to see the result of the whatever service or product was created was a good story, and I think a lot of traction was made there. But realistically, which industry is publicly saying they're using Web3, even blockchain now? It's a bit of a strange, there's nothing that accepted, even though something made a lot of sense, like traceability of organic products from the source to the distribution. I don't see many people scanning the QR codes and checking where was this mango produced and what pesticide was used and what is the meaning of the EU 112. So I think the problem goes in usability, into the regulation, into the technical aspects that still is a big impediment for the mass adoption, I would say. It was the same happened in my experience in the past with the so-called Internet of Things technology. Everybody was talking about IoT, nobody was doing business, and then the moment people stopped talking about the technology and started talking about the use case, then there was no buzzword, it was just the business, right? Everybody uses the Lime scooter, so the I think they call it Bolt or Uber or whatever they call it now. I mean, nobody talks that there is an actual IoT device there is an actual payment system, there is something behind it. I think that's the key part. So the moment the technology is integrated into the product life cycle or into the actual business case, then you stop to look at it as a novelty, you look at it as an actual common practice. And let's see what happens. That will be the challenge. I think we're still climbing onto the hype, right? I mean, maybe the name will change. Same in the IoT, it was M2 and then IoT and then it became reality. So maybe this is how it was blockchain, now Web3, maybe Web 2.3.1, I don't know. So let's see what happens. But we're still climbing the hype curve.
And I think eventually the industry that will be disrupted are likely going to be maybe all or at least a lot of industries. I think especially when it comes to circular economies, it's Web3 actually provides the railways for communities to get together to get behind a common interest, a common cause. Like I want to fund a certain project, I want to fund maybe a local hub or a some bakery in my little community. Really decentralized organizations and this Internet of Value provides the railways for doing that in like small circles as well, and not just having funding by a public market or by big private equity funds that are difficult to access. So I think Web3 can make us less rely on large institutional corporations and more so go back to a more circular economy and be like more community driven and value driven from subgroups of this.
It's very nice to hear that perspective on the community aspect of Web3.
Yes, I see here also a couple of different areas where we can go with Web3 technology. Banking, finance, we discussed so far, but there is also art and media for artists. So Web3 technology is very important to sell direct their products, their cultures, their pictures to the customers. Also, that's one area I see where we have a lot of potential to use Web3 technology in the future. Then in the area of education, you can use Web3 technology to produce your certifications on a blockchain probably, and then everybody can test if it's the right certification from the university XYZ or whatever by yourself. And there are a lot of other use cases in the education sectors also for Web3. Then healthcare. Healthcare, we have a big discussion also in Switzerland about privacy and how to match the data. And here there are also a lot of very interesting use cases for Web3 technology to manage all these problems we have today. And another one is on the supply chain for the firms. If you want to know where is your product at the moment, and you buy something from Asia and you use it in the US or whatever, it's for the logistics very difficult to find out where are my products at the moment, and they are starting new pilots based on web technology, where you have a much better overview and you can rely on the data you see there. And for the big logistic firms, it's also a very nice use case there. And in the area of the governments, we try to use blockchain technology, Web3 technology in the area of voting. That's also a use case which can be used in every country. And yeah, that's from my perspective, more top-down view, where you can use this technology. And there are really a lot of very interesting and fascinating use cases. The problem is that you have to find a way to discuss this with management or people on the top level. They don't know how blockchain will work or what Web3 is. So you need to have people who stands up and try to discuss with them in their language. And then I think we can move on and have nice project in all these areas.
So for my next question, and it will only be a yes or no, because I really want the folks in the audience to based on that answer from all of you, to come and talk to you about why, is the elephant in the room always with Web3. Do you think, yes or no, that cryptocurrency is necessary for the widespread adoption of Web3? Yes or no?
I say yes.
Is the token a cryptocurrency? All right.
Yes or no?
All right. With this caveat, yes. I mean, token is needed.
Okay.
So let me just take then the other side and say no. And I mean, I'm not entirely sure, but I'll say no, and then we'll argue after the panel with why no might be a right answer.
Wonderful. And now you know their answers. I encourage you guys to really talk to the panelists and really probe as to why they answer the way that they did. So I do also want to ask each and every one of you, what do you think is not being talked about enough today in terms of Web3? Whenever you're reading in the media, whenever you're talking to your colleagues, what is not being mentioned? What do you wish people talk about more when they talk about Web3?
I would say values of Web3. I mean, nobody talks that this was created for a reason, not just for speculative financing or financial sector quick richness. I think media only talks about this fraud or this scam or this FTX collapse or that exchange collapse. Nobody talks about the original idea. I think there is a great article on token engineering and the actual ideas of decentralized autonomous organizations. So I think more news has to be created about positive ideas, not just the negative. Of course, media is very biased about the negative. I think we need to elevate the recurse above the negative and talk about the positive impact on society.
I think maybe that's why I answered no in the question before as well, is talking less about self-referential tokens that generate tokens that give you a yield at some other tokens, like all this kind of cryptocurrency talk is taking over the actual question, like what real world problem are we trying to solve with this technology? How do we get, when I see friends building startups that actually produce, 3D printed buildings, for example, and I see, wow, they're building something that really has an impact in the real world directly. When I look in our space right now, we're building interesting technology. We all have this faith and belief that it will one day revolutionize real people's lives. But right now, I feel like that is not necessarily the case. Well, it is the case, but not to the degree where it needs to be happen for this technology to take off further. And therefore, talking more about those, how to get real-world use cases, how to bridge that gap between what is running kind of in this cocoon, whether that is Web3 or DeFi right now, versus what is happening in the real world is important.
Your perspective?
My perspective is that we have to talk more about real use cases and the value we can create, because there is a huge potential. And I think it's not a discussion about, not to discuss too much about technology issues. That's something we can discuss in our bubble, absolutely. And it's important to discuss in our bubble, but we have to bring the idea what we can do with this technology up to the world with pilots, with new projects with it, with the value we can generate through this technology.
And we have
Thank you. Thank you.